What are your concerns there, and how soon do you see getting some adjustment on that?
Well, we got two things coming here, and they're both artificial crises. You got sequestration at the end of this week, and then at the end of March, you've got the continuing resolution. Both of them have big impacts on us. As you said, we've got two carriers here. We've got the Roosevelt that is about to be finished, but we can't finish it. We've got the Lincoln and we can't start her. That has ripple effects on down because we got carriers behind it that have to be refueled, have to be overhauled, all these things. And we've got workers that aren't being hired, workers that have a possibility of being laid off if something doesn't happen with one of these things. This can be fixed. These two artificial crises can be fixed. The President's presented a very balanced, very strategic, very comprehensive plan. It's going to require some compromise. Only Congress can fix this now. We need this fixed. We need it fixed for our national security. We need it fixed for the jobs and the people that are represented here in the Hampton Roads area, but also all across Virginia and all across the United States. We need some certainty. We need some certainty in this, and we need to have a way to make cuts to defense that's smart and not just this mindless approach that sequestration and the continuing resolution represent.
Mr. Secretary, our 4th District Representative Randy Forbes yesterday had talked about possibly extending the continuing resolution, but doing it in a way that would allow DOD more flexibility, allow the Navy to allocate some of these funds where they need to be. Is that something that could be done?
Well, you know, doing a continuing resolution for the rest of the year just isn't a good idea, and playing around the edges to make it work a little bit better, to make a bad idea a little bit better, it's just not a solution. We need to fix it. We need to have a budget instead of a continuing resolution. We need to fix sequestration instead of just letting it happen. So these things can be fixed, but they've got to be fixed in a comprehensive way. They've got to be fixed in a balanced way, and they've got to be fixed in a way that does not diminish our national security or the workforce that we have worked so hard to build here in the Hampton Roads area.
But Mr. Secretary, worst case scenario, if they can't reach this compromise, if we don't meet the deadline on March 1st, some type of continuing resolution is going to have to be enacted, isn't it, in order to keep the military functioning?
Well, there are two things. Continuing resolution is March 27th. Sequestration is Friday. So sequestration is a thing that kept the Truman from sailing and her strike group. Sequestration would be the thing that keeps the Bataan and her amphibious ready group from going. Sequestration would be the reason that we'd have to take down 4 of our 9 carrier air wings, and it would take us a year to get them back up at 2 or 3 times the cost. The continuing resolution is what would keep ships from going into the shipyard to be repaired. The continuing resolution is what is keeping us from finishing the Roosevelt's refueling and overhaul, and from starting the Lincoln. Continuing resolution is what is going to cause us to deploy less, train less, steam less, fly less. So you got both these things. Both are artificial, both can be fixed, but both need to be fixed in a comprehensive way and in a balanced way, and not in this sort of meat-axe approach that and just playing around the edges of making 2 bad ideas a little bit better just doesn't fix the underlying issue, doesn't help us either in the short term or the long term.
Mr. Secretary, you mentioned the Truman deployment. Syndicated columnist George Will had asserted in a column, you're familiar with it, last Sunday, that the Navy was grandstanding or trying to bully Congress, if you will. Can you respond to that?
Well, the Navy and the Marine Corps don't grandstand. The Navy and the Marine Corps don't do politics. What the Navy and Marine Corps do, and they do it magnificently, is protect this country. We could have deployed Truman, but the danger was that we would have 2 carriers in the Middle East. Congress doesn't fix sequestration or the continuing resolution, and we go from 2 to 0. We would not have another carrier there. The only thing we could do, and this was a decision made by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, this was a decision made by the top uniforms in our military that was then recommended to the Secretary of Defense, who accepted that recommendation, and it was made by the Commander-in-Chief. This is not a political thing. This is not a grandstanding thing. What this is an example of just how mindless, just how devastating, just how unnecessary both sequestration and the continuing resolution are, and just how it will degrade our readiness.
As Secretary of the Navy, how comfortable are you with the fact that we've had to back off of this strategy of 2 carriers in the Gulf, with Iran threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz and continuing to develop its nuclear program? Wouldn't you feel better with a 2nd carrier there?
Well, I am going to say we've got plenty of assets in the Middle East. We need a carrier in the Middle East, and we've had 1 carrier there for a long time. The 2 carrier requirement just came up about 2 years ago, and we've been putting 2 carriers in. Even in normal budget situations, it was going to become a stretch to keep 2 carriers there all the time. We can meet any mission that we have to meet, but what this shows is that we don't have the options. We don't have the option to give the President, we don't have the options to give the Joint Chiefs of sending those assets there when we need them. And if we had sent the Truman, we wouldn't have had a carrier if we needed one somewhere else. If we had to surge a carrier, if we had to send one to some other part of the world for some other crisis.
How does this whole thing affect the BMD deployments? I mean, that is such a critical part of our missile defense now, and there's been some concern raised over that, whether these, with offsetting the maintenance schedules, can we continue to keep these BMD ships working and continue to support our anti-ballistic missile defense initiative?
Well, you've got to be worried about all our deployments. You've got to be worried about all our maintenance. You've got to be worried about all our upgrades. We're upgrading destroyers and cruisers to be ballistic missile defense capable. All these things are at risk because once you miss an availability, once you miss one of those shipyard availability, it's really hard to make up because you got ships behind you waiting to get in. So you basically go to the back of the line. You're less ready. The same thing goes with training. We would have to take down, as I said before, 4 of 9 carrier air wings if sequestration hits. That means that basically half of our carrier air power is going to be sidelined. And to get them back up, to get them trained back up, to get them ready to deploy will take up to a year and will cost 2 or 3 times as much. So this is one of those, it's going to cost us more money in the long run. Sequestration was never supposed to have happened. It was a mechanism put in to force Congress to do their job, to force Congress to make some sensible cuts, to make some balanced decisions, to get us to a place that we needed to be. That didn't happen. Sequestration is just a bad idea. And now to say, well, we'll just let it happen, it's mindless. It's going to have an impact on these workers you see behind us. It's going to have an impact on thousands of people across this country. It's going to have an impact on Navy and Marine Corps readiness, and that really does worry me as Secretary of the Navy and as an American.
Last question, sir. Same question I've asked many of these workers here today. What do you hope to hear from the President today?
Well, the President has presented a balanced plan, a comprehensive plan, a plan that's tied to our strategy. So it has strategy built in. That's what I hope to hear. I hope to hear the President lay out this plan, and we will hear the President lay out his plan and what the effects are going to be. Let the American people know what the effects of this bad idea that was never supposed to take effect, what will happen to our national defense, what will happen to our economy, what will happen to our workers if it is allowed to take effect on Friday, or if the continuing resolution is allowed to just continue at the end of March.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I appreciate your time, sir.